the gathering and to invite and introduce our guest speaker, Dr. M.P. Ramanujam, sir. Please, sir.
Thank you, Betty.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Is it audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir. Audible.
Thank you. Respected and Honorable President Dr. M. Aruchami, sir, Secretary and Director of our institution, and Syndicate Member of Bardya University, respected Dr. C. A. Vasuki, Madam, respected Principal and Convener of this program, Dr. M. Lakshmanasamy, sir, Resource Dr. S. Paulusamy, sir, Associate Dean, Research and Development, Dr. R. Sivaprakash, sir, Dean Academics, beloved Dr. S. R. Madansankar, sir, Dean School of Computer Science, respected Dr. N. Nagarajan, sir, Chairperson of this session and Head Department of Botany, beloved Dr. K. Tenmoli, Madam, Organizing Secretary, Dr. K. Karthika, Madam, Organizing Coordinators, Dr. R. Rekha and Dr. M. Parveen, Madam, Organizing Committee members from Department of Botany, Head of the various other departments, faculty members, research scholars, and students from our institution and also from various other institutions. Very good morning to all of you, and I am very happy to welcome everyone for this fourth day virtual session on short-term course in climate change, impact on sustainable development, as jointly organized by Research and Development Cell and the Department of Botany, Kongunadu Arts and Science College, Dr. M. Aruchami Research Foundation, and the Indian Science Congress Association Coimbatore chapter. So once again, on behalf of organizing committee and my own, my hearty and warm welcome to everyone for this wonderful session. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce our today resource person and the speaker of this session, Dr. M.P. Ramanujam, sir, Member, State Council for Higher Education, Government of Puducherry, and the Commission on Educational and Communication, United Nations Environmental Program since 2005. Also, he was a chairman in state level expert appraisal committee, Government of Puducherry from 2008 to 2015. Sir has 43 years experience in teaching, including undergraduate and postgraduate programs, and 8 years in administrative service. His specialization in the field of environmental science, biodiversity, and conservation. Sir has produced 5 PhDs, 35 MPhils. He has published 10 books, 3 book chapters, and 54 research publications in the reputed national and international journals. He has completed 6 research projects and presently have one ongoing. He has visited several countries, include China, Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and Thailand. Sir acts as a member and chairman in various international, national, and state government advisory committees, academic committees, and universities bodies, especially Steering Committee on Biodiversity Conservation, Department of Environment, Expert Committee on Curriculum Development on Environmental Education for Primary Classes, Government of Puducherry, Control of Noise Pollution, Department of Environment, Expert Committee for Review of Environment Curriculum, Department of Education, Government of Puducherry, and etc. Sir won more than 20 prizes in the various academic activities and more than 14 awards, noted Best Science Author Award from Tamil Nadu Science Congress in 1994, State Environment Award from Government of Puducherry in 1997, Combined Literary Award from Government of Puducherry in 1999, Environmentalist of Year Award, National Environmental Science Academy, New Delhi in 2005, Lifetime Achievement Award from PL Foundation, Madurai in 2016, and etc. With a short introduction, I would like to invite Professor M.B. Ramanujam, sir, and take over the session to delivering a talk on global climate change and overview. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a great day all. Sir, please. Thank you.
Good morning, friends. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, friends. First of all, I should thank Dr. Tandabani for giving a nice introduction about me. And I take this opportunity to place on record my appreciation the administration of Kongunadu Arts and Science College, which is organizing several international and national events under the auspices of the Indian Science Congress Association. As the person in charge of the chapter, Dr. Palusamy has been doing pioneering work in this regard, and with the kind collaboration of his colleagues, he has organized several conferences, seminars, and workshops. In fact, I believe this should also has taken the seed from his thoughts. Therefore, I thank Dr. Palusamy for giving me this opportunity. As far as this occasion is concerned, Dr. Lakshmanasamy, the principal, the organizing secretary, Dr. Karthika, and Dr. Tenbadi, and the other colleagues of the Botany department have organized this event in a wonderful way. And this talk, which is on the global climate change, is intended to give you an overview of the problem so that the participants will have a better understanding of the other expert lectures. Friends, the global climate change has become one of the most serious environmental issues confronting the humankind. And whenever I am given an opportunity, I used to recollect the events collected towards the topic of the theme. 3 or 4 events struck my mind. One is the event that concerning Greta Thunberg, the young girl, the teenager, who initiated a movement in 2017, and where she said action or we will take action. She warned. Why did she do so? Greta Thunberg is a teenager, as I told you, 17-year-old at the time. She was a schoolgirl. So she thought of the global climate change at the young age, and we started a movement called Fridays for Future. She was given the Right Livelihood Award in 2019 at a young age of just 17 or 18. You must be wondering, this is an alternative Nobel Prize in honor and support of the courageous people solving global problems. Why was a little girl chosen for that? In August 2018, Greta Thunberg started a school strike for the climate, where, first of all, she sat before her school, and having known the importance of the event, several people joined. Then she started a strike in front of the Swedish parliament. Once the news spread all over the world, then more than 10 lakh children joined her. And the movement was called Fridays for Future because every Friday she organized such an event. What started in Stockholm spread to other cities and countries. In 2018, having heard about it, the United Nations invited her to participate in the Corporation of Parties, the 24th meeting which was held in Poland, where the UN Secretary General was also present. She was called to give a plenary speech, which is a very important honor for an environmental activist. Then, following that, in January 2019, she was invited to the World Economic Forum in Davos. Then, in 2019, September 23rd, she was addressing the Youth Action Summit under the auspices of the United Nations, where she spoke on the global climate change and the role of the leaders. In fact, what is called the non-performance of the leaders of the nations. In the meantime, having heard about the Fridays for Future movement, 185 countries were involved. 6,383 events were held all over the world, involving 3,024 organizations, 624 non-governmental organizations. As a result of this, the supporters base swelled. About 4 million people struck work on that day, 23rd September 19. You might be surprised to know 2.5 lakh Americans who were normally against anything controlling the climate change were also on the street. Luckily, 16,000 knowledgeable Indians also shared the meeting. She spoke in a meeting on that day, and what she said was, we are protesting. Why are we protesting? We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. You are concerned only about money and so-called economic growth. But what about environment? By neglecting environment, you have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words. How dare you? She questioned the leaders. She again warned, our house is falling apart and we are rapidly running out of time. There is no time to act. Yet basically nothing is happening. She accused the world leaders. Then she said, the eyes of all future generations are upon you. If you choose to fail us, we will never forgive you. Such a stern one was given to her, by her to the world leaders. That's why she was awarded the Alternative Nobel Prize. Then another event that struck my mind was that rapid and numerous forest fires that happened in the year 2019, where in Amazonia. Amazonia, as you all know, is in South America, which is spreading over 9 or 10 countries, covering 7 million kilometer squares of the forest area. Of this, the rainforest alone stands on 5.5 million square kilometers. Brazil, Peru, Colombia, and 6 other countries have shared in it. You know the advantage of a forest cover. It exchanges vast amounts of water, plays an important role in water cycle and in carbon cycle. It is very important in controlling the local and regional climate by contributing to 16% of the oxygen. But the forest fires are normal, as you all know. But what happened since 2012 is because of the political reasons, where the political leadership encouraged deforestation through forest fire, initiating forest fires. It was 80,000 in 2019, more than 77% of 2018 level. That means every year the number of forest fires have been increasing, decimating the forests and converting them to dry lands. And they even celebrated a fire day in the August of 2019, so that the people will go scotch-free and initiate forest fire wherever they wanted. The smoke that burned there swelled up and traveled up to 2,000 kilometers away, and it was seen in Sao Paulo state of Brazil. Friends, because of the forest fire initiated at that time, 20 lakh insects, 40 lakh plants, spiders, birds, frogs, and reptiles have all been destroyed. 400 tribal groups which were inhabiting that they have lost their habitat. That is the pathetic situation of the forest fire initiated by a political leadership in Brazil. Look at it. The forest fires, the dots indicate wherever the fires have taken place. The third event that struck me is the migration that took place in India. Migration of what? Migration of butterflies and moths. You all know this is very common. But what this is a scientific study. Even several years back, several people scientists warned that because of global climate change, global warming process, unending process, several plants will find their habitat unsuitable. Not only plants, as well as the animals. In fact, they calculated poplar, the broad-leaved Populus delta tree, will have to be moved to 600 kilometers northwards. Either it has to move or we have to do it artificially. 600 kilometers, then only suitable environmental conditions can be ensured because of the global climate change. Then in India, the Zoological Survey of India came out with a report in 2019 that 2 butterflies and 2 moths have shifted their range. Look at it, the bush blue butterfly, 1.2 kilometers upwards the mountain. Then blue butterfly, 600 meters upward the Uttarakhand ranges. Two moths again have moved upwards by 2.7 kilometers and 2.2 meters. Then it is because of the unsuitable climatic condition that prevailed in their original habitat. They were in search for habitable range. The planetary impact on the food security have to be imagined in that case. If you all know, if the insect population then becomes inoperational, the pollinator impact will be very, very severe on food security, because in 4 days, the food base will go all down. Then the latest event is what's called the heat dome. You will be surprised to know heat waves you would have heard. In Rajasthan during summer, heat wave strikes and several people die of the heat stroke also. But what is this heat dome? In Canada and parts of the United States, during the last few weeks, are experiencing extreme temperatures. We all know Canada and Northern America are temperate countries. Temperate climate prevails. Then, in such a situation, the temperature rose to 49.5 degrees Celsius, which is an all-time record. This rise was not gradual. It was a sudden rise in temperature because of a severe heat wave. And because of the very short-term impact of the heat wave, or what is called the heat dome, more than three times deaths occurred during just in 5 days because of this environmental phenomenon. How did it happen? What is the heat dome? See, you all know Pacific Ocean and other oceans are very vast bodies of water. When the surface gets heated up, the heat swells up and the heat waves travel towards the land. And there, because of the convection process, they get trapped over the land mass, and a gradient causes a more and more warm air and heated by the ocean surface. And typically, this lasts a week or so, but this time it lasted more than a week. So this is the heat dome where from the Pacific Ocean, the heat waves traveled and covered like a dome on the land surface. The temperatures of homes rose to unbearably high levels, leading to sudden fatalities like those of the heat stroke. Such a trapping of heat can also damage crops. Crops acquire a novel climatic condition, and at the crucial period, if there is heavy warmth or higher temperature, certainly their growth will be affected, and the vegetation also will dry out. Droughts will also become unbearable, all because of the climate change, what is known as in a popular terms as global warming. The global warming process I need not elaborate. Most of you will be aware of the basic facts: the solar radiation traveling and the harmful ultraviolet radiation and the X-rays, other waves being filtered out by the atmosphere. Only the light reaching the Earth's surface, and even that is being trapped by the atmospheric layer, by a layer of gases called the greenhouse gases, which trap the heat waves and then again send them back towards the Earth's surface, heating the Earth's surface. This is called global warming. But without warming, there cannot be life also on the planet Earth, you should know. But what is important is the so-called greenhouse gases are fractional only in the atmosphere. The non-greenhouse gases only constitute more than 99% of the atmospheric composition. But even this small amount, 1% gases, have tremendous impact on the global temperature. Of the various gases, carbon dioxide is a major culprit, as you all know, then followed by methane, nitrous oxide, then perfluorocarbons, hydrofluorocarbons, sulfur hexafluoride, water vapor, etc. If you look at the table, a molecule of sulfur hexafluoride can trap the heat 23,900 times more than a molecule of carbon dioxide. That means even if it is in traces, its impact will be very severe on the Earth's atmosphere. What is the reason for this rise in temperature? As you all know, the temperature was tolerable in the mid 20th century. By 1950, the carbon dioxide level was only 350 parts per million. And therefore, the climate was very, very favorable for living. And then after, because of the increased utilization of the fossil fuel, which is caused by the industrial revolution, the energy use galloped and the carbons started building up in the atmosphere. Various events, wherever the fossil fuels are consumed, that has led to major pollutions. This event, the Georgia Scherer plant, which is a thermal power plant in the United States, alone contributes 34,000 tons of carbon per day, equal to 25 million tons of carbon per year into the atmosphere. If that is the case of one thermal power plant, what is the impact of the power plants all over the world? You can just imagine, and the consequential load of carbon in the atmosphere. Normally, the carbon which is let off by various sources is a raw material for photosynthesis. That's why we are concerned more about the forest cover. Forests act as a sink for carbon through the act of photosynthesis, as you all know. Then another sink is the ocean. Vast expanse of the ocean built up carbon dioxide, convert to carbonate, which will form the sediment in the ocean floor. So these two are the major sinks. But unfortunately, along with the industrial revolution, in fact, parallel to the industrial revolution, the deforestation activities also have been accelerated. And this contributed to 25% of the global warming process. Look at the scale in which the forest is being destroyed. The burning and clearing of the forest contributes to over 20% of the total greenhouse gas emissions. It's more than the emissions of all the world's cars, trucks, trains, and planes combined. For example, if you take Madagascar, in Madagascar Makera rainforest, it prevented more than 8 million tons of carbon dioxide from entering into the atmosphere. That is the value of the forest cover in Madagascar alone. That is the value which we can obtain everywhere if the forest cover is enhanced. That is equivalent to taking about 1.45 lakhs of cars off the road for 10 years. So just the forest cover will prevent pollution to such an extent. The deforestation not only leads to the building up of carbon in the atmosphere, but also forests are the home for biodiversity, rich biodiversity. By removing the forest cover, the extinction rate of several species is being enhanced. Now we know at a rate of about 20 minutes, several areas of the forest cover are being removed. 1,200 acres of forest are being removed in just 20 minutes, and that results in the emission of 1.8 lakhs tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. In just 20 minutes, we build up carbon in the atmosphere through deforestation. That means less forest cover means fewer acres of habitat for species and shrinking sink for carbon also. What to do? We know that global warming is a fait accompli. The heat wave that has happened in Rajasthan and the heat dome that we witnessed in America and the heat, sweltering heat we also experience nowadays during summer are examples. No proof is needed. Then what can be done? See, when the milk boils, what do? Either we sprinkle water to quell the increasing heat, or we withdraw the flame. These are the two solutions we offer. That's what has to be done here also. Look at this. Starting from 1850, which ushered in the Industrial Revolution, the fossil fuels, whether it is the liquid form, solid form or gaseous form, all have increased, contributing to more carbon buildup in the atmosphere. And this buildup is likely to warm up the atmosphere up to 6 degrees Celsius by the turn of this century. This is one prediction. Two studies put the minimum rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius level up to a maximum of 4.5 degrees Celsius. Some say it may even touch 6 degrees. But another study puts it a minimum of 2.5 degrees Celsius. But whatever it is, we are going to face a very, very warmer and unsuitable environmental condition in the near future. The consequences of global warming naturally are alarming. Look at its impact. It will impact the health of the human beings because weather-related mortality, infectious diseases, and because of the lowered air quality, the respiratory illness will also increase. Agriculture will be impacted through reduced crop yields and more irrigation demand. Water resources, the supply will be diminishing, water quality will be decreasing, and the resulting competition between the countries will become very, very aggressive. In fact, there is a prediction that if there is a third world war, it will be because of water alone. Such will be the importance of the need for controlling the global climate change. The coastal area will bear erosion, inundation, and additional cost for protecting the coastal lines, communities. The coastal ecosystem will also be affected. The species and natural areas will be experiencing harsher climatic conditions, therefore they will be compelled to migrate. I have given some examples also earlier. The ecological consequences are certainly very severe. The weather pattern will change. It will become erratic. So what happened in Germany last week, just 15 minutes of cloud burst has inundated vast areas. Damage cost is very heavy, very severe. You could have seen it in the television or in the newspapers. And the melting of the Arctic ice, the polar ice melting, will contribute to higher sea levels. When the sea level rises, the coastal areas will get inundated, and the coastal land ecosystem will be affected in the form of mangroves. And again, the coastal ecosystem, the kelp industry, the phytoplankton, and all other coral activities will also be affected very severely. Then when the seawater gets into the land, what is called the incursion of salinity, coastal agriculture will experience serious problems that will lead to intolerance of the crop, again resulting in the lowered crop productivity. That means if the paddy, wheat, and other crops fail to yield the normal yield, then there will be a threat to the food security. All will be traced to the global warming. As I pointed out, the health effects also is important. The extension of the range of the tropical diseases, reduced immunity system, these two are the very important health as far as the human health is concerned. We will elaborate it later. And the ecosystem level, the tundra will become very, very shorter. It will be shrinking. Then the Arctic species will be threatened for survival because of the loss of habitat. The migration of the species towards the pole. I have indicated about the poplar. Then ecosystem stability. Ecosystem is a very stable ecosystem with the environmental conditions, microbial and higher organismal participation. That will be disturbed very severely. When there is increased melting of snow, more rainfall, rise in the sea level, climate is negatively affected. There will be more floods, more hurricanes, and more storms. See, the melting of glaciers, just I will give you one example. The largest glacier, called the Larsen Glacier, about 5,800 kilometers square level, there was a rift in the Larsen Glacier, 5,800 kilometers square. such a large block separated because of the global warming. The Greenland is already melting at 4 times higher than the normal level. That means it will contribute to an increase of the sea level by 2.3 inches by 2050. This indicates the average thickness of the glacier across the time, starting from 1960 up to 2000. It has been steadily declining. Again, this also confirms that there is a thinning of the ice mass in the polar regions. Some predict that at the present rate of 1.5 millimeter per year, it contributed to 7.4 in the previous century. It will be accelerating at the rate of 0.13 millimeter per year in the come. If this acceleration continues, it could result in the rise of the sea level by 12 inches, at least 1 foot by the turn of the century. The scenarios, some scenarios claim the rise could be up to 1 meter, which I think it's unrealistic, but there is such a prediction. If 1 meter sea level rise is seen, then more than 1/3 of the coastal areas will be inundated and the coastal population will lose their livelihood. Recently, the California State Lands Commission said if the sea levels could rise 55 inches this century, it will inundate all the ports in the country. This is a picture. Of course, this is a photoshopped version. The future of the coastal cities, will it look like that? Should it happen? That's the question. Again, the floating towers, sea level rise. Here, the polar bears, I just give you one example. They require a pack of ice to live. And in this pack of ice, during the ice buildup, the fishes will create chambers, small chambers underneath, and they will be hiding inside. So this polar bear will walk along the surface. It will know where the fish prey is available. It will give a strong thud, and the fish will escape, come out. It will catch it. That means it requires a continuous long spread of the ice plate. But unfortunately, if the ice melts and becomes a small pack, where will it go? How can it survive? So this fate will happen to most of the polar species. Not only the polar regions, even the mountain glaciers are melting. Just in 1976, you could see. Then in just 30 years, it has shrunk to a greater level. Such natural disasters, as I pointed out, will happen not only in other parts of the world, can happen. It has happened in India also. In 2007-18, there had been 18 natural disasters. As you know, the Uttarakhand disaster in 2013, the Chennai floods in 2015, the North Indian drought in 2016, the Thane cyclone, Gaza cyclone, subsequently have all the important natural disasters which we cannot forget. In fact, imagine the Kerala floods also during the 2018 and 19. This is the scenario from the Uttarakhand cloudburst. See, the extent of damage caused by heavy floods, unexpected. This is what we call erratic weather pattern. We do not know when the cloudburst will happen, at what intensity, causing which degree of damage. Look at the statue, which is emerging beyond the bridge level. Now, such is the intensity of the floods caused. So, if this happens, if there is sea level rise, several islands will become submerged. This is one scenario. Then Chennai floods, who can forget it? Just in 4 days. We call it rain pain. 2015-16, we call it rain pain. 4 districts, 20 lakh people, thousands of homes were affected. Streets, airports, everything was flooded. And just in 4 or 5 days, 269 people died. Then another aspect of the global warming, as I said, is the shortage of water supply. About 262 million people were affected by climate disasters in 2004. Of these, 98% of the people were from the poor countries, African countries. Then the World Health Organization estimates 1.5 lakhs lives will be lost every year because of the global climate change. It doesn't stop there. There is an impact on the economy also. The economical damage is by 9% of the global domestic product in the country. If that happens, if there is a 2% temperature rise, 70 lakh people will be displaced from the coastal areas. In India, it is one of the most affected, most flood-prone state, next only to Bangladesh. In India, 68% of the land is vulnerable to drought. And of this, 33% is chronically vulnerable to drought. In such a scenario, if the global warming continues, the drought will become severe, affecting the livelihood of the poorer people. Low rainfall, drying of rivers, shortage of water. What do you mean by drying of rivers? If the Himalayan peaks melt and become dry, where will be the origin of the rivers? Nothing. Then another important event happened in 2018 in South Africa. South Africa declared a day zero, water day zero. You will be wondering, what is water day zero? That means when the disparity between the demand and supply becomes unsupportable, they declare water day. That means people will be given ration for water. And with that ration only, they have to manage every household activity, including washing of clothes and toilets. That started in South Africa, where active water rationing was implemented in 2018. The picture is not rosy for India. Already 21 Indian cities like Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, and Hyderabad will run out of groundwater by 2020. Luckily, in Chennai, because of the rains in Andhra Pradesh and elsewhere, the situation is not such bad, but sooner or later it will certainly happen. It will affect at least 1 crore people. 40% of the Indian population will have no access to drinking water by 2030. I have earlier pointed out the impact on the human health. Climate change and human health is a very important topic for discussion because a changing climate affects the population health at a larger scale across the nations and the boundaries. Because the quality of air declines, the cleanliness of water is declining, sufficient food is not available, the infectious diseases could not be controlled, and the shelter becomes shrunken. All these will affect the human health either directly or indirectly. The forest fire is one such event where because of the heat wave, air becomes thinner and it accumulates more pollutants. And such a warm air where you see, as you see here, will cause what is called the smog. People who are experiencing smog in Bangalore and Hyderabad and Delhi will narrate their tales very, very pathetically. Some air pollutants will be floating and they will cause more harm to the lungs, aggravating their respiratory problems. Therefore, global warming can either directly or indirectly increase the range of the adverse health outcomes. As I told you, the shortage of food and the quality of food declining, there will be malnutrition. When the malnutrition, the children are growing a diarrhea. And the warmer, polluted air increases the respiratory diseases. And likewise, the polluted water will contribute to waterborne infections. And the insect-transmitted diseases will also find new ranges. People have not heard of malaria in temperate countries, but nowadays the mosquito is seen and the malaria is also extending range towards the warmer regions of the temperate countries. we think of the corona? Is there a link between corona, COVID-19 outbreak and global warming? People say yes. Because even without the climate change, there are several factors like habitat loss, rapid urbanization, globalization, and meat production will increase antimicrobial resistance in human beings. So that means when our immunity declines, our immune system becomes subdued, naturally we will become prone to a number of other diseases. Is that happened in the case of COVID-19 also? Some people think so. The climate change makes winters milder and shorter also. As a result, the transmission period of the diseases becomes very, very shortened. As a result, the geographical range of the pathogen expands to newer areas it will go where the climate has become very favorable. So these infectious vectors thrive better in a warmer climate, as I told you about the mosquito. So with antimicrobial resistance already building up, the immune system getting weakened because of the global warming, then it enables the germs and vectors in the higher altitudes and latitudes to bring new diseases to the new places. For example, the transfer of bacteria and viruses from animals to humans. This is what's called the zoonotics. This relationship also has become a focus point of discussion in the recent times. Particularly in the case of the COVID-19, where the Chinese bats are seen as the culprits which have transmitted the COVID virus to the human beings. In the global outbreak of SARS also, and the Zika virus also, the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, what is called MERS, the viruses have moved from animals to humans. If that had been the case, why not this COVID-19 also? But compared to the other diseases, the impact of COVID-19 is pandemic. As you know, it has affected almost all the countries in the world, and the human race is struggling to cope with the survival. Therefore, we have to stop climate change if our health has to be protected. What can we do? We can protest. Ordinary people, common man, can only protest. See the scenario where people have protested. Politicians talk. You are all politicians, like Greta Thunberg. You are politicians. When you act as a leader, only a leader acts. Again, change the politics. Why do you change the climate? Warning. Another warning. See, there is no planet B. There is no Earth elsewhere. Only Earth is the only habitat available for human race. So why do you make it uninhabitable? So these are the seeds of the protest. Another important protest I should tell you is the Earth Hour, which was initiated in Australia in 2007 on 31st March. That means last Saturday. On the day, the Australian environmentalists gave a call to people to switch off current usage, electricity usage by 1 hour, 8:30 to 9:30. And 2.2 million people in Sydney alone joined the movement. As a result, 2,100 businesses switched off their electric usage, which saved 10.2% of the electricity at the time, which worked out to 48,760 kilowatt hours. Just 1 hour stoppage contributing to mitigation of the global warming process. This is the illuminated Sydney Harbour, where it is fully lit, and during the Earth Hour, where it was darkened. Again, Sydney Opera House, then Opera House in dark. Then in subsequent years, it started in Australia in 2007, and in the subsequent years, it spread all over the world, just like the Fridays for Future movement. Even earlier it started. Look at the Petronas Tower in Malaysia, the Toronto, Canada, Eiffel Tower, Empire State Building. Then you will be wondering what happened in 2019 and 20. In 19 and 20, the outbreak of the pandemic years. In March 30, 2019, again, the Save Energy, Save Earth. Energy saving is earth protection. This was the theme. It was observed in 188 countries. But in 2020, there could not be a mass movement. Therefore, it went digital. In March 28, 190 countries joined under the banner Climate Action, Sustainable Development. Then in 28 March 2021, it was only digital participation because of the pandemic impact. And the slogan was climate change to save Earth. So then the voice for controlling, mitigating the global climate change, what is the action proposed by the United Nations? What do the world leaders do? They certainly do. They collect, discuss, and disperse. There was Montreal Protocol in 1987, then United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in 1992, the famous Kyoto Protocol 2005, the latest 2015, the Paris Agreement. So it proposed climate neutral or carbon neutral should be achieved by the second half of 21st century if the global warming process to be limited to habitable levels. The Conference of Parties 21 in 2015, the Paris Climate Agreement was finalized. It was agreed. Already 1.1 degree Celsius has increased. 0.9 degrees Celsius alone has happened in the last century, 20th century. The carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere was 350 parts per million in 1950, and it was by 2000, it was 389 parts per million. You know, in June, the last June 2021, it touched 420 ppm. Such is the rapid level of rise of carbon in the atmosphere. So this should be limited. To what level? At least to 2 degrees Celsius. But to be frank, it should be limited to 1.5 degrees Celsius, as most of the scientists warn. To this agreement, the Paris Agreement, 197 nations signed, 184 of them ratified by January 2019. But what about United States, the largest consumer of electricity per capita? The previous president was very happy to that. Barack Obama was very happy to sign the agreement. He agreed to cooperate. But as you know, the President Donald Trump declared in November 2020 that he is withdrawing from the Paris Agreement. Luckily, the new President, Joe Biden, has recommitted to the agreement on the very first day of his office. Perhaps this is a consequence of warning given by Bill Clinton long back. He already said the train has already arrived. But most of the ordinary Americans have not heard the whistle blowing. That means you are scientifically illiterate. Therefore, you must wake up. So after Paris Agreement, the US hopefully will have rejoined the Paris Agreement in 2021. But a few countries have not formally approved the agreement, like Angola, Eritrea, Iran, Iraq, Libya, South Sudan, Turkey, and even Yemen, and even Tajikistan, I think. So what do the people do? So not only with the agreements, they also remind us periodically about our commitment to the protection of environment. March 20 recently was observed as the World Sparrow Day, 21 as the World Forest Day, 22nd as the World Water Day, 27 as the Earth Hour, and June 5th as the World Environment Day, as a day of ecosystem restoration. And the United Nations has declared 2021 to 2030. This decade is a decade for ecosystem restoration. The previous decade was for biodiversity conservation, and this is for ecosystem restoration. All of them related to mitigating global warming process. So the time has come for action. What to do? The threshold for dangerous global warming will be expected to cross by 2027 between and 2042. That means in another 6 years, we will be entering a very, very crucial, critical period where it has to be controlled. The Paris Agreement has to be implemented. There have been several schemes, as illustrated by the previous speakers, where every country has an action plan for that. So there is only a very, very narrow window if we have to follow the IPCC's estimates. At least by 2052, it should be controlled. The civilization must respond rapidly. It should cut down carbon emissions by 40% by 2030 so that we can reach the net zero level by the middle of the century. This is the target fixed by IPCC. That's why they have declared World Environment Day theme 2021 as ecosystem restoration. On the World Environment Day, what do we do normally? Common people plant trees to celebrate the theme of ecosystem restoration. And this has become the important event this year. Now, you look at it. The drier climate and the greener climate. Which one we should do? If the right-hand side should be realized throughout the world, then we should revive and restore all the ecosystems. Then why do you concentrate on the ecosystem? You had been concentrating on tree plantation, protection of biodiversity. Now this year, why do you concentrate on the ecosystem? Ecosystem is the most important factor in carbon neutralization, in absorbing carbon. And they can drop down carbon and buffer us from the worst effects of the climate change, as forests do, as the oceans do. But it can happen only when we protect them. If you go to the ocean, the kelp forest, we call it forest kelp because it is extending to hundreds and hundreds of kilometers underwater. The kelp, phytoplanktons and kelp, they are important scavengers of carbon. There will be gas-filled bulbs called bladders, and these huge algal mass grows by 2 feet every day. If such is the rate of growth, there is no wonder that it is assuming the forest shape. The leafy blades form a dense underwater canopy that can store 20 times more carbon, which is equivalent to the expanse of the terrestrial trees. 20 times more carbon can be sequestered by algal growth in the ocean. So that carbon gets buried in the ocean floor. Then the coastal ecosystem like mangroves, they also play a vital role because they are salt tolerant, they have shrubs and trees, they thrive in freshwater rivers and spill into the sea. And they occupy just 0.5% of the Earth's shorelines, but account for more than 10% of the coast carbon storage capacity. So this is the balance between the carbon emission and carbon removal, which is performed by the forest ecosystem. If what is emitted is consumed, neutrality can be achieved. Deforestation, unfortunately, has negatively impacted our process. The global warming is happening. Trees use carbon dioxide and they give off oxygen, we all know, but they create an optimal balance of gases in the atmosphere. If more and more forests are logged off, then timbers is cut down, then there will be fewer trees to perform the critical function. And more than the ocean and the forest, the soil also is very important in controlling the warming process. How? The organic matter is trapped in the cores of the earth. They are acted upon by the microbial flora in the earth and converted to carbon compounds and locked away in dense, dark earth for centuries together. It contains more carbon than the entire atmosphere and all the world's plants combined. The soil carbon is more in quantity. Therefore, if you manage the soil management, soil conservation is optimum, then at least 5.5 gigatons of carbon each year, equivalent to 15% of the current annual emission, can be easily sequestered. If these are the events that are happening all over the world, there is a warning from the scientist. For example, the environmentalist William Schlesinger warned in 2017. See, Earth alone cannot compensate for all your pollution unless people also reduce the amount of greenhouse gases. No amount of ecological restoration will save us. You are concentrating on the ecosystem. Well, that is on a larger scale. What, as an individual, you are going to do? Your role also is critical. He gave a clarion call in 2017. And he suggested the bottom line is there. We have to get off of using fossil fuels in transportation, heating and lighting and everything else. Wherever we use fossil fuel generated electricity, that has to be energy, that has to be limited. The easier to patch a hole. It is easier. Whenever there is a hole in a bag, we just patch it. It is not easier here. It is easier to patch a hole in a bag than to pick up the marbles that fall out. So instead of picking up the marbles, instead of facing the consequences, why don't you control the source itself? That was his call. For that, he is expecting every human being, every individual to contribute to the mitigation of global warming. Therefore, every human step is very, very important. What we have to do is conserve energy, reduce energy needs, recycle as far as possible, switch over to alternate energy sources, nuclear sources, wind energy is another one, geothermal energy, hydroelectric sources, and solar radiation, which is the big bird nowadays, that is also gaining momentum in India and elsewhere. Then fusion, that is also nuclear energy, where there is a controversy about its utilization. But as an individual, change a bulb. If you change a bulb, then from the normal bulb to the CFL, see, 80% of heat, 20% of light only is emitted by the normal bulb. But if you use a CFL, it gives more light, 70 to 80% of light. You can see the number of watts indicated, 18 watts bulb, 14 watts bulb only. Whereas 60, 100 watts has to be used in the other bulb. Therefore, if a 24 watt bulb is used, it gives light equivalent to 100 watt bulb of normal bulb. The life expectancy is also very high. It consumes less power, only 40% power it consumes. It is certainly a bit costly, but cheaper on a long-term basis. So, replacing a regular light bulb with a compact fluorescent lamp, one saves 150 pounds of carbon dioxide every year. Plant a tree. You all know the importance of planting trees. A single tree can absorb 1 ton of carbon dioxide over its lifetime. So, plant a tree. This is what an individual can do. So, don't doubt what an individual can contribute. Whether a small group of individuals who are highly motivated, determined, but clear thoughts, what can they do? They can bring out great revolutions. Most of them happened only in that way. Margaret Mead has warned. Friends, the universe is vast and expansive. You are here in the vast expanse. Look at the solar system. Where you are here. The sun and the solar system, the earth is very, very small compared to it. So in that, we are only a fraction. Therefore, it is our duty to save the planet Earth so that not only we, the future generations can have a healthy life, comfortable environment, and sufficient food base. This can happen only when we realize our environmental responsibility. Otherwise, as Greta Thunberg warned, we will be a failed generation. Should we take the blame? Look at this. If you don't control the global warming process, the future animals will hold a seminar, not the webinar, but a seminar where they will say, see this fellow, we have warned him to be careful of the global warming. He didn't heed the advice. Now it is a state that as a human species, he has become extinct. Should it take place? Let us all join together to save the planet Earth. I once again thank the organizers for giving me this wonderful opportunity, and also for the participants for their interested interaction during this meeting. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. The topic is our session. Participants can unmute your audio to ask your queries to the guest speaker. And if not, you can also post in the chat box.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Palaswamy speaking.
சார் நீங்களே கேள்வி கேக்குறீங்களா? ஓகே, வெல்கம். சொல்லுங்க.
No question, sir. It is actually, this is the overview about the global and also the climate change. You have touched all the areas, starting from the emissions of greenhouse gases, the sources, how it is spreading, how it is influencing the life system and other natural resources, and then the possible mitigation at the organizational level, institutional level, and individual level, how we can, as an individual, do something for the mitigation of the climate change, everything. So wonderful photographs, excellent statistical data you have provided. So this is a type of lecture, actually make awareness among all young researchers and also young people who do not know about the climate change and its consequences. Definitely in future, everybody should have some awareness about the climate change. We have to involve in the mitigation process at individual level. At least plant few trees in and around your residential areas. That will manage. You know, in the pandemic period, for the past 3 months, people suffered. The diseased people suffered for the oxygen. So the oxygen factories are the green plants. So if you plant more and more green plants, when you increase the green cover, definitely that will be a way to mitigate the climate change and its consequences. So your lecture is very excellent, sir. Almost everybody enjoyed, I think.
It's all because of you, sir. I have to credit you. The credit goes to you for giving this opportunity. Thank you all. Thank you, and other organizers also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Yeah, sir. This is Dr. Bhupesh from Nagaland University, sir.
Well, welcome.
Nagaland Central University, sir. So I am basically from Tamil Nadu only, sir.
Yeah, you are most
so
welcome.
Yes, sir. Your presentation and deliberation is very excellent, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, here I observed, sir, in forest fire, the people are usually doing the shifting cultivation, sir. Shifting cultivation.
That is the question of livelihood for them. As you know, you are in a mountainous range, and you know, from olden days, shifting cultivation has been routine for them. But there, they do it with an ecological conscience. They shift, they deforest a small patch of area, go to a newer area. And the new older area is left for afforestation once again, regeneration. Whereas the people who deforest an area is doing for commercial causes. No, that is what unfortunate.
Sir, sometimes what happens, sir, the place which they are cultivated is in between the forest, sir, or in the territory of the forest. Sometimes they are doing the shifting cultivation by burning the harvested crops. So the fire was spread all over the forest also, sir. Some spots of forest also.
You are right.
Yes, sir.
Actually, even not only in Nagaland, in many of the forested areas, now the tribal people, just for earning the livelihood, they initiate fire, so that they will get employment during the drier months. That is also another important factor we have to regulate through the forest department.
Yes, sir. Till now, there is no
take the responsibility. Yeah,
Yes, sir. Till now, there is no awareness will be created, sir, from the government side.
you are right. You are right. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, good morning. This is Dr. Suvaprakash from Kongunadu Arts and Science College.
Yeah, welcome.
It was an excellent presentation, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Well, actually, my thought is like, no, I mean, human beings have already done maximum damage to the environment.
Yeah, enough damage has been done.
Maximum, like the maximum has been done, and we are still continuing to do it. And this we are able to see its effect. We are able to see with the increased fury in the, the rain or like, the wind gusts. And nature by itself, like, it's kind of uprooting the trees that are already we are planting or huge
Yeah.
trees. And there is flooding everywhere and unseasonal rain everywhere. So my thought is like, no, man, without 100% participation of the human beings, will not be able to revert the
That's
damage
what the
that's been so far.
warning says. That's what the Steinsanger's warning points out. He wants every individual to contribute.
Yes, sir.
They will say, if everybody sweeps the doorstep, the whole world will be clean. So if everybody contributes to the process, then the whole world will be environmentally safe. That's why every individual's contribution matters. You are right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My thought is like, no, 100% of human beings should participate in protecting the world. I mean, I would say rather like, protecting the human race rather than protecting the earth by itself will protect itself.
To a certain extent, no, you cannot expect every individual to contribute to the cause because the awareness level is very low.
Yes, sir, that's true.
Recall what Bill Clinton said. He said if America is supposed to be a very, very well-educated country, right? Even there, he said most of the people are illiterate scientifically. Scientifically, they are not aware of the damage caused by the global climate change. The train has already arrived, but they have not heard the whistle blowing. That means they are not ready, prepared to face the challenge. That's why
Agreed, sir.
you are proactive.
Agreed, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Betty,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Cloud
Sir,
seeding.
shall I continue?
you can
Yes.
ask.
Are you suggesting cloud seeding as a remedy for dry season? I want the question again.
Sir, due to climate,
Yeah. Please.
there's a question.
Please
Due
carry
to
on.
climate in. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, there is a question from Yokesh Kiruba, sir.
Yes. Yes, please.
Due to climate change and lack of precipitation, why we are not widely using cloudburst technique, sir?
Cloudburst technique, is not always successful. In fact, I have heard during one of the important events in Russia, unexpectedly the rain was to start, but they have moved the clouds away to avoid the rain in that area. So such is the advance of the cloud seeding or cloud removing experiments, but it has not got the imagination of the scientists in India. I do not know. Only the world meteorological scientists can answer this question. It's only, I think, in my opinion, it's only in experimental stage, not on a larger scale.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. If there are no questions, I will once again thank the people for the participation and the organizers again. Thank you. Shall we close?
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable talk on this topic. One small positive thought in the morning can change the whole day. I now invite Dr. R. Thirugnana Sambandhan, sir, Assistant Professor in Botany, Kongunadu Arts and Science College, Coimbatore, to render the vote of thanks. Please, sir.
Okay, thank you, Betty. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So, very good morning to all. It's my great pleasure to propose vote of thanks for session on global climate change, an overview of short-term course climate change impact on sustainable development. First, I would like to express my sincere thanks to our president, Dr. Aruchami sir, architect of this premier institution. I express my grateful thanks to our beloved Secretary and Director, Cream of Crop, Dr. C.A. Vasugi ma'am. I extend my thanks to our respected Principal, Dr. Lakshmana Sami sir. I thank today's resource person, Dr. M.P. Ramanujam sir, Member, State Council for Higher Education, Government of Puducherry, for his wonderful talk on global climate change and overview. In his speech, Dr. Ramanujam sir was started with Greta Thunberg. So, sir has seeded the knowledge about the awareness of climate change and how to protect the climate change through the Greta Thunberg's Fridays for Future. Subsequently, Sar has talked about Amazonian fires. Because of that fire, we have lost a huge biodiversity. Because of this biodiversity, definitely we are going to lose a lot of what was in benefits from that biodiversity. Subsequently, Sar has talked about species migration, heat wave in Rajasthan, and new word heat dome, which had happened in Canada. That is extreme heat. What happened when we are not protecting our earth? Definitely, it will hit us. Subsequently, Dr. Ramanujam has spoke about the Scherer plant of Georgia. From a single thermal plant, how much what was in that carbon emission comes out, which ultimately cause damage to the environment. Then deforestation, worldwide carbon emission. The worldwide carbon emission will definitely increase the temperature of more than up to 6 degrees Celsius in upcoming future. Then subsequently, Sari has talked about consequences of greenhouse gases, flood, hurricane storms, etc. So subsequently, Sari has also talked about natural disaster in our country, which is a big alarm to us. So subsequently, water, that is 0 day water, then food shortage, respiratory diseases, etc. So in a single presentation, Dr. Ramanujam has enlightened us and made us to think about the protection of the nature for the future generation, not only for future generation, for the current generation. So thank you very much for your wonderful session, and really it's a mind-blowing and it's eye-opening session. Thank you very much for your wonderful session, sir. I also thankful to the Dean R&D, Deans of various schools, Head Department of Botany, faculty members, research scholars, students for your valuable cooperation and support for this program. Once again, thank you all. Thank you very much for the opportunity given to me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Few announcements. Tomorrow is the last day on the short-term course. Dr. S. Palsamy, sir, Dean, Research and Development, Kongunadu Arts and Science College, Coimbatore, will be delivering his talk on the topic Impact of Climate Change on Biodiversity. And tomorrow we will be having a multiple choice question test. About 25 questions will be asked along with the feedback form, and that will be provided in the respective link, and it will be posted in the chat box at the end of the session. The registered candidates can write the test, and those who obtain 40% of marks will receive a course completion certificate on this short-term course. And tomorrow, the final day, you are all requested to join the respective Google Meet link 10 minutes to 10 a.m. or you can join in the YouTube link. Participants are now requested to fill up the feedback form before winding up the session. The feedback form link is provided in the chat box. Thank you all. Have a nice day.